I find it interesting that I wonder whether also the approach, like how we feel about that masculinity in the context of like approaching women or partners and, that realm, is that reality or is that what we see online because we see the minority of women online being like, I want a man that does X, Y, and Z and all these sort of things. Then men get scared to approach women because they're not X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And therefore we portray the reality of social media into the reality of real life when they're actually two completely different things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you walked up, I don't know, like if you went up to someone in person and you said to them, you're like, wow, you look beautiful today. They're probably not going to be like, fuck off, that's great. Like they'll probably be like, oh my God, someone actually said that to me.
Yeah.
And I wonder, we've convinced ourselves that people don't like that chivalry and all those sort of things purely based on some clips we saw online, which made us scared to step into that masculine sort of frame as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like the masculine frame, like being able to, I think it's the ability to know that you can conquer, you can do. I think Jordan Peterson says this. It's like be a monster, just learn how to control it. And I think that is like a really nice phrase for like that. You're talking about the strength of a man sort of thing, but then the relationship thing. I just wonder whether, and approaching people, whether it's actually a real thing or whether we're convincing ourselves of it.
I think social media has changed, whether it's perception or reality. And I, having a daughter that's nearly 21. And talking to her friends as well, because I'm really interested in this space about there seems to be a power balance that shifted heavily towards the female, because invariably a attractive female, whatever that is, to whoever that is, that doesn't matter what that is, but they're getting 10, 20, 30, 40 DMs, guys sliding into their DMs. So there seems to be that world of, well, we can either accept or reject a whole lot of guys because they're all coming at me. So I feel like the old days of chivalry, crossing the road to give a woman her flowers or pick up the hanky she dropped, you see in the old movies, is now just a whole lot of dudes just diving into the DMs. So there's this real, I feel like women feel like they've got a lot of choice now. And you do see that on social media a lot about, there's so much choice for women now. There's no more choice than there was before. That it's just that guys are just sliding into a DMs a lot easier than approaching someone on the street, I guess.
Which comes to, I guess, that I think a common sort of conversation that people are having online is that women are born with value, men build their value, and therefore that's probably amplified even more.
Definitely amplified.
In the fact that like but also one thing that no one talks about in an equality point of view is attractiveness equality.
Yes.
Like that is, it's purely based on looks on social media. If you look in, the eye of the beholder, I guess, but in society, if you look a certain way and you look really good, well, you've got a lot of good things coming for you if you just post a few photos on Instagram. Like in comparison to someone that doesn't look as good, that's going to be harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I find, like I say, interesting in growing up with a son and a daughter, and we have really open conversations about it and what's considered acceptable now. And I think that's a really, it's fluid now. I feel like the movement has shifted perhaps more so, a lot more towards the female side, but it's always evolving. And I feel like there's this wave of young guys kind of pushing back now, saying we want to claim our masculinity back. And, we do have testosterone and almost that, it's probably not a great example, but that hunter-gatherer mentality where what is wrong with a man providing and a woman raising their children in a house and keeping house? I fundamentally think, in the 50s, that's what it was. I mean, people might say that's sexist. I'd go, well, man or woman earning the money, man or woman raising the child, I don't care what side it is, but what's wrong? I don't think there's fundamentally anything wrong with that model, as long as someone's caring and raising their children. But now, we're living in a world where, both parents are working, preschool care, after school care, and I feel like we've kind of blurred the lines. Like it has to be about that child, especially from 0 to 5. Whereas there's this economic pressure and the pressure for the woman to go and work and the man to go and work and be a man and be strong. Don't be emotional, but don't be too emotional. Be the breadwinner, but also be the dad and have energy for the children when you get home, and also clean the house. And it's kind of feel like it feels it's a bit messy at the moment. So
I think now we're stepping. That's actually a really good point there. Like you're not knowing what you need to be. It's, as a bloke, I feel this, and I'm sure women maybe now feel the same as well. It's that in the past it was like this was your role. Now it's kind of like your role is everything.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really hard to crush it in business and be the full-time parent. Well, it's impossible.
Yep.
And so having those specific roles where people did specific things probably just allowed more to get done more productively rather than
Yeah.
doing like a little bit of everything. You're doing a lot of that and doing it really, really well, which is, I don't know, like to your point as well, like the parent, like the raising of your kids, if you're around the place, it's like, where did we go wrong? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of different points there, but where do we go that there's no parent in the house? Or not,
Yeah.
someone's in there, there's an adult, but it's not the parent.
Yeah.
Like, what? No one, who's raising your kid?
Yeah, and I was talking in the gym the other day when I mentioned it, but I know a couple that are both lawyers, and they're in preschool. The kids are in preschool care, after school care. They have a nanny, feeding, washing, bathing, clothing their children, putting them to bed, and they're coming home at 7:30. Now they've got a $2.5-3 million house and a couple of European cars, but like, you kind of think, at what point have we got to that where the money's so important than the car and the house and the material things, where these children are growing up not saying goodnight to mummy and daddy most nights. You just go, this is crazy. What's wrong with the old model?
Head over to Jordan Checker Podcast to get the full exclusive experience.